Have you ever wondered when your mind began feeling heavier than your body? When the weight of the day started pressing down on you before you even sat up in bed? You wake already drained, not from lack of sleep, but from a kind of tiredness that sleep no longer touches. And almost without thinking, your hand reaches for your phone, a small gesture that opens the door to a flood. News, noise, deadlines, demands. The world barges in before you've had a chance to meet your own morning. Even on days when nothing is wrong, your thoughts won't stay still. They circle, they tighten, they pull you into places you don't want to go. Some days it doesn't feel like you're living your life. It feels like you're simply surviving your mind. Now imagine the opposite. An 80-year-old Zen master who moves as though time itself has softened around him. He walks slowly, not because he must, but because nothing inside him is in a hurry. His smile is unforced, his breath steady, his presence unshaken. He has lived through loss, aging, uncertainty, storms far greater than daily worries. And yet his mind feels lighter than yours does after a quiet morning. What does he know that the modern world has forgotten? How does someone with 8 decades behind him carry a mind more peaceful than people half his age? For him, the mind was never a machine to fix, optimize, or control. It was always a garden, something to tend with patience, rhythm, and gentleness. Your mind is not broken. It is overgrown. What you water grows. What you neglect turns wild. These elders do not chase self-improvement. They practice self-tending. And in that garden, the first thing they protect is the beginning of the day, the very first moment your eyes open. Lesson 1. Begin your day with the world, not your notification. There comes a point in life, often after 60, when mornings begin to feel heavier than nights. You wake not to the presence of a new day, but to the echo of yesterday's fears, yesterday's thoughts, yesterday's loneliness. And before your body even remembers how to move, your hand reaches for your phone. A small gesture, repeated thousands of times, carving a deep groove in the mind. But the moment you unlock that screen, you lock your nervous system into battle. News, noise, expectations, messages. The world demands something from you before life has even given you a chance to breathe. This is the great trap of modern aging. You begin the day already behind, already anxious, already overwhelmed. Many older adults describe the same feeling. You wake up alone, you check your phone, and suddenly you're swallowed by a world that doesn't even know you're there. It is a silent kind of loneliness, the kind that arrives not from being physically alone, but from being emotionally ambushed before dawn. When the first thing your mind meets is chaos, the rest of the day becomes an attempt to escape it. Zen masters, especially those who have crossed into their 70s and 80s, understand this deeply. They have watched entire lifetimes unfold. They know how fragile the first moment of the day truly is. And so they protect it. Instead of reaching for a device, they sit. They breathe. They meet the morning the way one meets an old friend. Without hurry, without fear, without demands. They begin with the world, not with the world's noise. The air touches the skin. The temperature sits, shifting across the room. A bird, a breeze, a moment that belongs to no one and asks nothing from you. There was an old Zen story about a monk who greeted each sunrise with the same whispered words, "Thank you for still letting me be here." He said it not out of habit, but out of recognition, that each morning was a quiet permission to begin again. When you start the day slowly, you remind your mind that life is not a threat. You give your nervous system a place to land. You give your heart permission to soften, even if the rest of the day becomes difficult. For people growing older, especially those living alone or carrying unspoken grief, this single shift becomes an anchor. You no longer open your eyes into loneliness. You open them into the world itself, a world that existed long before your worries and will exist long after them. Self-care for the mind does not begin with avoiding pain. It begins with refusing to let pain be your first visitor. And the first visitor you choose matters more than you realize, because a peaceful first moment becomes a peaceful first emotion. If the first voice your mind hears is chaos, don't be surprised when it spends the whole day trying to protect itself. But if the first voice it hears is silence, you may find that peace follows you long past the morning. But it's not just how you start the day that shapes your mind. It's the speed at which you choose to live it. Lesson 2. Slow rituals heal what rushing breaks. There is a kind of exhaustion that sleep cannot touch. The exhaustion of living every day as if you're being chased. You pour your coffee not to enjoy it, but to survive the next few hours. Meals happen anywhere except at a table. Your mind scrolls even when your hands don't. And the saddest part is this: even when life finally gives you a moment to rest, your body no longer remembers how to slow down. You move fast, not because life demands it, but because your anxiety does. And that is the quiet tragedy of modern adulthood. Zen masters, especially the elders who have lived through decades of hardship, understand something we've forgotten. Rushing doesn't save time. It steals presence, it steals breath, it steals the possibility of peace. There is a well-known Zen story about a young monk who always hurried, believing speed was proof of discipline. One morning his master stopped him and said, "If you cannot walk slowly, you cannot truly walk. And if you cannot truly walk, you cannot truly live." The boy slowed down, not out of obedience, but because the words pierced him. He realized he'd been running through his own life without ever entering it. This is the wound slow rituals are meant to heal. Zen masters move slowly on purpose, not because their bodies are old, but because their awareness is deep. When they prepare tea, their hands do not rush. When they fold a cloth, they do not fight time. When they pour water, they do it as if water itself were a sacred visitor. To them, the ritual is the medicine. The slowness is the treatment. The result, tea, a folded robe, a clean bowl, is only the echo of the real healing. When you perform a slow ritual, even a tiny one, your nervous system receives a message it rarely hears anymore. We are not in danger right now. Think about that. How many years has your body been waiting to hear those words? Rushing whispers a different message, one that ages you faster than time ever could. You're late. You're behind. You're not enough. It's the voice that turns a lifetime into a race no one wins. But a slow ritual, even something as simple as stirring your tea with intention, speaks a more tender truth. You are allowed to be exactly here. Nothing is chasing you in this moment. When you move slowly, you stop fighting the moment. You step back inside your body, and for the first time in a long time, your heart realizes it doesn't have to run anymore. These small rituals, practiced every day, stitch together a kind of peace that rushing will never give you. They create a rhythm the mind can rest inside, a pace that feels like breathing again. And as they slow their movements, Zen masters do something else our modern minds have forgotten how to do. They come back into the body. Lesson 3. Use your senses as anchors for a racing mind. There is a special kind of suffering that comes not from the world, but from your own mind refusing to stay still. You can be sitting in a quiet room, yet feel as if you're trapped in a storm. Your body is here, but your mind is reliving old mistakes, replaying old conversations, rehearsing disasters that never happened. You are alive, but not truly present. This is the silent epidemic of overthinking, a constant mental buzzing that never lets you rest. The noise inside becomes louder than the world outside. And no matter how hard you try to relax, you cannot switch off because you're fighting your thoughts as if they were enemies. Zen masters learned long ago that you cannot win a war inside your own head. The harder you fight your thoughts, the sharper they grow. Instead of struggling, they choose a different path. They return to their senses, the body's oldest doorway back into reality. There is an old Zen teaching that says, when the mind wanders into the past or future, follow the breath back into the body. But breath is only one anchor. Sound, smell, texture, temperature. Each sense is a place where the mind can rest safely. A Zen elder once guided a young monk who was overwhelmed by constant thinking. The boy asked, "Master, how do I stop my thoughts?" The master handed him a bowl of incense and simply said, "Listen to this." The boy frowned. "But incense has no sound." The master smiled. "Exactly. Let your mind hear what silence smells like." In that moment, the boy understood. He didn't need to kill his thoughts. He needed to give his attention somewhere gentle to land. This is the heart of Lesson 3. Your senses are not distractions. They are anchors. They pull you out of the noise and back into the moment that is actually happening. When you listen to the hum of the room, when you feel the warmth of a cup in your hands, when you notice the texture of fabric under your fingers, your mind returns to your body and your body returns to now. You don't need to win a war against your thoughts. You just need somewhere kinder for your attention to rest. This practice is not dramatic. It will not erase your problems, but it will bring you back into your life, the real life that exists outside your memories and beyond your fears. Each time your mind drifts away, a single sensory anchor becomes the invitation. Come back. You're safe here. And in that return, again and again, healing begins. But it's not only the inner sensations that matter. The world outside your walls is also part of how an old Zen master takes care of his mind. Lesson 4. Let light and simplicity reset your system. There is a heaviness that settles into the mind when you spend too many years living under artificial light. Days blur. Time feels thin. You move from one room to another, yet everything looks the same. Dim, crowded, unchanged. Your body knows something is wrong long before your mind admits it. The fog, the low mood, the constant tiredness that even sleep cannot wash away. All of it grows quietly in rooms where sunlight rarely touches you. Most people don't realize this. Your environment is not silent. It whispers into your nervous system all day long. And when your home is cluttered, when your office is cramped, when your windows stay closed, your mind absorbs that noise like a sponge. Zen masters learned this centuries ago. They know that the mind is not just shaped by thoughts. It is shaped by what the eyes see, what the skin feels, what the space around you allows or denies. A Zen is saying, when the room is bright, the heart finds its way. They treat sunlight not as decoration, but as a teacher. When morning light enters a room, they let it touch them. When shadows move, they pay attention. Because light, real light, tells the body, you are part of the world, not separate from it. The sun is medicine that asks for nothing. One Zen master in his 80s said, even a minute of morning light can reset a troubled mind better than an hour of thinking. And he was right. Sunlight doesn't argue with you. It doesn't judge your past or worry about your future. It simply offers warmth and clarity, and the body responds. But light is only half the lesson. The other half is simplicity. Zen monks live with fewer things, not because they reject comfort, but because they understand something most people never realize. Every object you own is a tiny pull on your attention. Every stack of papers, every unused item, every crowded corner, they all speak to the mind. Look at me. Deal with me. Remember me. The mind can't rest in a room that never stops talking. There's a famous story of a visitor who came to see a Zen master. The guest complained that his mind was always chaotic. The master looked at the man's overflowing bag and said, "Your mind is no different from what you carry. Too much, too tight, too loud." Then he emptied half the bag onto the floor and whispered, "Sometimes peace begins when things end." Simplicity is not emptiness. Simplicity is mercy. Mercy for the eyes, mercy for the breath. Mercy for a nervous system that has been overstimulated for decades. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for your mind is not another thought, but to change what your eyes rest upon. A beam of light, a clear table, an uncluttered corner. Small changes, yes, but the mind feels them instantly. And once the space around them is calmer, these masters do one more surprising thing. They care for their mind by caring for the very ground they stand on. Lesson 5. Serve your space so your mind can rest. There is a strange kind of exhaustion that comes with modern living. An exhaustion where the mind is tired, but the body has done almost nothing. Screens drain you. Sitting traps you. Thinking wears you down more than moving ever could. You feel too tired to function, yet too restless to truly relax. This is the fatigue of a life lived mostly in the head, with no grounding in the world beneath your feet. And here's the painful truth. A mind that never stops cannot heal in a body that never moves. Zen masters have always known this. They understood that when thinking becomes tangled, when emotions become heavy, when inner noise becomes unbearable, the answer is not to sit and analyze it. The answer is to move, but move gently, humbly, purposefully. In Zen monasteries, cleaning is not a chore. Cleaning is a form of prayer. Sweeping is meditation. Wiping is awareness. Organizing is clarity made visible. There is a beloved Zen teaching that says, when the mind is clouded, sweep the floor. Not because the floor needs it, but because you do. A young monk once complained to his master that he couldn't concentrate during meditation, that his thoughts were loud and uncontrollable. The master handed him a broom and said, "Then let your thoughts move through your hands." As the boy swept, something softened. His breath deepened, his shoulders dropped. The noise inside him began to loosen its grip. When your hands know what to do, the master said, your thoughts no longer have to fight for control. This is the miracle of simple, repetitive movements. They give the body a rhythm. They give the mind a rest. And the reward is immediate, almost childlike in its simplicity. This was dirty, now it's clean. This was chaotic, now it's simple. You can see the result of your actions. In a world where most of your stress comes from problems you cannot see or touch, this visible transformation brings a grounding relief the mind has been starved for. And something else happens. Something quieter, deeper. Caring for your space becomes a way of caring for the part of you that still longs for safety. You are not just organizing a room. You are telling your mind you deserve to live somewhere that feels clear, gentle, and calm. It is astonishing how quickly the nervous system responds. A wiped surface becomes a quiet moment. A swept floor becomes a breath of relief. A decluttered shelf becomes proof that not everything in life is uncontrollable. And little by little, the outer space you tend begins to reshape the inner space you live in. And when you look at all these lessons together, you begin to see something. Caring for your mind doesn't look dramatic from the outside, but it changes everything on the inside. When you step back and look at these 5 lessons, a simple truth appears. Begin your day with reality, not with the world's noise. Build one slow ritual that teaches your body it's safe. Let your senses anchor you instead of letting your thoughts drown you. Invite light and simplicity back into your home and into your nervous system. And treat cleaning not as a burden, but as a way to soften the world you live inside. None of these requires robes, temples, or decades of training. They only require willingness. It's true. You're not a monk. You have bills, responsibilities, and people who depend on you. But here's the part most of us forget. Your mind doesn't care about your job title, your schedule, or your reputation. It only knows whether it feels hunted or held. And that is the invitation of these teachings. Not to change your entire life, but to change how you move through the life you already have. You don't need perfection. You don't need a new identity. You just need one gentle choice, repeated. That's how an 80-year-old Zen master became peaceful. Not through miracles, but through moments. Not through force, but through kindness. And today, you get to decide if you will offer your own mind that same kindness. If this message stayed with you, even for a moment, let it continue its journey. Like this video, subscribe for more reflections, share it with someone who may need a softer morning, and tell me in the comments, which of these 5 practices will you begin with? Your answer might be the first step toward the peace you've been waiting for.